is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
JJ Wang, we are at Showtime Thursday night. I'm excitedly sad because Thursday I have like my biggest responsibility of school the entire year. Like I'm gonna be working till 7 till probably 8 or something. I got the draft recorded, but it's round 1 Thursday night, 2 and 3 Friday, and the rest on Saturday. So fast, and Saturday's just terrible to watch. But we get some guys from there. But are you excited?
I mean, Saturday's kind of interesting. I mean, it's something you can set down, for 15, 20 minutes at a time and then catch up on like the last 30 picks and, like, oh, I remember that guy or I know that guy. I like the last couple of rounds, those guys that don't come, you don't see very often. But I mean, I'm honestly probably like the Friday and Saturday better than pretty much over the first day or the round 1.
Well, for fantasy, Friday is going to be the best day. That's when you'll get the best running backs. A lot of stuff I hear that I've been listening to various different podcasters and statisticians and whatnot saying wide receivers in round 1, you want to get those guys. Those guys have the highest hit rate. Running backs, if you get past round 2, it's there's always the Isaiah Pacheco's, the random guys. But I mean, Isaiah Pacheco's 1 year, but they're saying a lot of stuff I'm hearing is it's making me rethink my whole strategy as I go in. But before we jump in,
it's just running backs are kind of like falling farther and farther. I feel like each year. I think it's going to get to a point where they just can't fall any farther. But I mean, second round running backs, third round running backs. At this point, they're all going to be pretty much going to get their opportunity.
I mean, we're talking generational talent supposedly in Bijan this year. And this afternoon I was laying around watching this show on the NFL Network about the 1995 draft. It was the first year of the Jaguars and Panthers. The number 1 pick in that draft was a running back out of Penn State.
John Carter, right?
And then his third carry ever, he just blew out his knee with an ACL before all the ACL things. And that's got to be the tape that all these guys go, hey, look, it might be 28 years ago, but that dude, we blew a first-round pick on him. Boom, 8 plays into the Bengals season, shot out his knee, and they said in 7 years he played 14 games and just injuries just derailed. That guy was a stud in college. Holy moly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these guys are studs in college. The NFL is just a different game. But like I said, the NFL is a different game than it was 28 years ago. I mean, you get a running back, and you're picking a running back, and first you're expecting to get 25, 30 carries. So you're not expecting the running back to get that many carries today. So therefore, in turn, you don't really no need to draft them that high.
So before we jump into that, today we're just going to go through some of these players, like dream scenarios, what we think is going to happen to them, where they might land. But before we get in, Knucklehead Players of the Week. Everybody's been saying, like, 5 guys got suspended for gambling. The biggest name is Jameson Williams, and luckily he didn't gamble on football, so it's only 6 games. And then Quentin Cephas, CJ Moore, Shaka Tony from the Commanders, and Stanley Berryhill all got suspended. I believe Williams and Tony got 6 games. I forget. Williams and Berryhill got 6 games because they were not supposedly it wasn't football, and the other ones it's all crazy. But Quentin Cephas, who was a guy on the deep end of a dynasty bench, cut.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the whole background of this. I don't know what they were gambling on or anything like that. But these guys got to know better than this, right? Like, most of them think they can get away with it. But Jameson Williams, that hurts a lot. A lot of people are probably expecting him to come in, first game of the season and making an impact. With the ACL last year, making that big play at the end of the season. At least we know the speed's there. So I guess we'll have to wait another 6 games to see if Jameson Williams is going to be any good or not.
And that's it's just like, someone was like, well, how can they do that? I said, well, think about anything. You tell a kid not to touch a stove, what are they going to do? I work with kids all week. If I say, hey, don't go grab that, boom, they grab it. These are multi-millionaire children still. Some of these guys, because the way sports are done.
Well, I'm not going to go as far as to call them children because they are grown-ass men. But.
Well, I'm going to say that Peyton Manning did not know how to dress himself. Like, he literally had his wife. Like, he had no clue. Like, some of these, like, simple things because of the way the systems are created. These guys,
when you say
cannot
when
handle
you
the
say
cold
when you say
scenarios.
dress yourself, Peyton Manning knew how to put on a pair of
Put
pants and
clothes.
a shirt.
Other than that, that was it. He could put clothes on his body. He didn't know how to like. I was
I
reading
can't.
the weirdest thing,
I can't. I need a woman to do that. I
but you
can't
don't
do that
have one, and you get dressed totally fine. I've seen you.
with a pair of pants and a shirt. I
I
mean,
know,
Peyton
and that's
Manning.
all it takes. Peyton Manning couldn't functionally do that.
I don't believe that one
His
bit.
wife called him out. I was like, man,
I
what is?
don't. I don't believe that one bit. I feel like that was kind of a joke. But by the time you're 20 years old, I feel like you could put on a pair of pants and a shirt. But but yeah, I mean, these kids they got a lot of money,
Yeah,
and people that are complaining like these kids, what are they doing? What are they doing?
we're
Like
doing the same thing.
they're being young dudes. I mean, like you never made like y'all never made a mistake. I mean, sorry, you're perfect. You know, you don't do anything wrong, but just with these guys, there's just millions and millions and millions of dollars involved. So that makes the world of difference.
That's yeah. My other podcast today was about all me being a knucklehead at their age, and it's like
Yeah,
that forbidden fruit. We want to grab it, and that's what they did. Is that's their forbidden fruit? Like literally,
I mean,
DraftKings
I
is
mean,
everywhere.
I mean, I could tell you a story of when I was in the military. It'd be kind of
You won't
X
tell me.
rated, but not really X rated. But I mean, I did some bad things when I was in the military. You look back like you are an idiot. Absolutely, 100%. I was 100% a idiot multiple times.
And you
And
did
hey,
that
look,
for singles of thousands of dollars.
yeah, right. So
Yeah, it's just funny. We all look back. It's like, yeah, I can't say we did anything stupid, anything, but it just makes me think. No,
also another thing, these guys today got their life under a microscope more than anybody else in the past. 20, 30 years ago, nobody was in your business like they are today. So every little thing they do, I mean, it's getting criticized for.
yeah, I mean, I heard I knew a guy who played football for an. I'm not going to mention the school because I don't want anybody to go back and get caught. But he said during college games, this guy in his school, and I'll tell you afterwards, would open his locker and there would just be little envelopes of cash, and this was a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of, but nobody knew it because there weren't millions of, Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, all this crazy social media. Like imagine that stuff when we were at college age, you were in the military, I was in college, and then you came back to hang out. Like we would not, we'd be in trouble. Like, or we would have had to be smarter than, that's why some of these kids are getting so much trouble.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There was probably a night or two I probably should have ended up in jail, but I mean, you got away with it. But
I'm glad my kids
yeah,
don't listen to the podcast much
I
anymore.
mean, it happens, man. God, I mean, I'm not perfect. I should have spent a few nights in jail.
Yeah. So enough about us being degenerates and about the degenerate Jameson Williams. Hopefully, he can turn it around, and it's time for him to show it. I mean, that Lions team is going to
I mean,
be
I'm sure he's not a degenerate. I mean, with
okay.
the
How
amount
about
of
knucklehead? Knucklehead.
yeah, no, go ahead. With the
Okay.
amount of gambling sites available to these guys
Oh yeah.
today, I mean, it's like the temptation. It's like Temptation Island out there. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just you make so much money, and you want to make gamble a little bit of that money away. I mean, you work for it, right?
That was
But like,
my brother's point was
can't
the
gamble.
same exact thing. It's you open Pandora's box, it's there, and some of these literally the only thing they got them for, like they're allowed to gamble on certain things, but because they used their phone in the building versus going 30 feet outside of the building, that's literally what the suspension. It's just crazy, crazy stuff. It's like, come on, man. So anyway, knucklehead is aside. On that note, I did see there's a possibility Marvin Jones might re-sign with the Lions to be sort of like a warm body until Jameson Williams comes back. That's an interesting. If you have Jameson Williams and you got a spot, I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
Question before we get in. So what I've been bragging about for a little bit here is I'm excited because the only draft picks really starts on Tuesday. I think I have 1.1, 1.2, 1.5, and 1.6. I've been talking with a guy and I almost pulled the trigger, but I chickened out because I want to go with what I got on getting DK Metcalf. Would you give up? What of those picks do you think would equal out to DK Metcalf?
Probably the one like your later pick. What was it? 108,
1.6, 1.5.
1.6. I mean, I think 1.6 would be is probably about as high as you could probably get for DK Metcalf. But even at that point, it'd be tough to even give up because I'd probably rather have Njigba over Metcalf. So you're talking 6. So yeah, I mean 6 is probably the breaking point. I wouldn't go any higher than 6.
I mean, we were setting on like two different islands. We were getting closer, then we almost got close, and I was like, because, yeah, it's just tough. But when you have that many picks, you are like the mark. Everybody,
Yeah.
I can't trade anything else. They want those four picks. Other guys like, we don't want this guy here that we know you're trying to get off your team. It's just like, oh. So I just
Oh
need to get
yeah. I mean, at
through
this
those six
point,
picks,
people
and then I'm back to
they
the real
just want
world.
picks at this point.
Yeah. So anyway, let's jump into some rookies coming in. Where would be an ideal spot where we think they might go, and maybe we'll even throw out some guys that we think might be fool's gold as we go through. So we talked about the prize of the day, Bijan Robinson, supposedly generational talent. If it was 95, he would be drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals and hopefully be more successful than Kajana Carter. He'd be drafted when Zeke was drafted, when Trent Richardson was drafted, all those guys up. But it's 2023. What's the highest you could envision? Like, could he go at 10 to Philadelphia? Could they pull that trigger?
I mean, I could see him going to 10. I did hear an interesting thing today about Derrick Henry and Philadelphia maybe possibly joining forces. So I guess we'll see. We'll see about that. That would pretty much put a damper on number 10. But yeah, I could see the Eagles at number 10 definitely doing it because they pretty much stacked at every point at every position. Um, but at number 10, I could definitely see the Eagles pulling the trigger there. That's probably about as high as I would go.
Yeah, 10's where I'm hearing. I've heard. What would you
But
think?
that's only because the Eagles have the 10th pick.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
mean, if it would
All
be
the Eagles.
somebody else with the 10th pick, I would, I don't know if I'd be as excited.
Tell you what, Bijan though has it better than say Kajana Carter, Trent Richardson. He's not going to go to one of these dumpster teams. He's going
Oh
to
yeah.
end up falling. Like if you're a great running back, you no longer are playing for the Houston Texans. You're playing. I mean, I've heard him go as far back as the Buffalo Bills. Not going to happen. But we're looking like Dallas has been a potential point. What would be a worse landing spot for Bijan that would have you worried more, Dallas or New England?
I'd probably say New England. I'd be a little more worried in New England. I feel like the running game in Dallas is a little more consistent. I mean, Zeke's been a top running back every year. Um, Pollard has been super consistent. So I mean, the running is there, and they want to run the ball. And then with New England, you just never know. I mean, you would think Bijan going there, he would get all the carries and everything, but what if he goes in there and Bill Belichick is like, I'm smarter than everybody. He gets 8, Lamondre still gets his 12, and then we find some random dude off the peep, and then gets a couple. But I would be a little more afraid in New England because I don't know what the heck's going on in New England.
Okay, Bijan goes to New England. Would that leapfrog those quarterbacks ahead of him in a rookie draft in Superflex?
I don't. I still don't think so. I mean, I think if you
Bijan
need a
is one no
quarterback,
matter where he lands, unless he lands in the
I
USA.
think pretty much. I mean, if Bijan is your one going into the draft, I really don't think there's a landing spot that would deter him from not being the number one pick. Because anywhere he goes, he's going to be the workhorse.
Yeah,
And it's a running back, and he's a running back, and bad teams produce good running backs all the time. So I mean, I don't think it really matters.
Damian Pierce was good last year. He was a
Yeah,
third
and the
rounder.
Houston Texans were bad. So
They were your team. They were pretty. So
hey, I like Houston. I still like them. I still like them.
we got the big four quarterbacks. We're looking at Bryce Young, looking tentatively like he's gonna go number one, right? Are we assuming at this point he's at minus 1,000, minus 1,500 to go to the Houston, to go to Carolina right now? That's
I mean,
the
I'm guessing. I'm guessing that's the play, but we'll see. I'm pretty sure that's the play.
so that's when it gets messy. We're looking at C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. C.J. Stroud is going. Is he gonna? What's if you, your gut right now? Is he going to Houston, or are they gonna go defense bulk and then he goes to whoever jumps up to 3 or to the Colts?
I mean, if anybody jumps up to 3, I mean, maybe we are looking at this as we're looking at CJ Stroud falling, but if I listen to people, maybe CJ Stroud isn't falling and he's just not that number 2 quarterback right after Bryce Young. What if he's not that good and nobody's willing to jump up to get him? So if Houston doesn't go quarterback at 2, I mean, I think CJ Stroud will be there at 4, and then it just pushes all the other quarterbacks back. And maybe the Colts like Richardson better than CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud falls even farther.
And that being said, who could you see falling farther? Anthony Richardson, who probably has the lowest floor and the highest ceiling of these four quarterbacks, or Captain Mayonnaise the Banana Eater, Will Levis, who I think all of us think is gonna stink. Like I don't want a thing to do with him, and I might be stuck with that. Like, hey, Will Levis got drafted third, and I'm sitting there at the sixth pick. I don't want him, but I don't want some other guy to get a quarterback that I could trade the brains out of. But you should never draft for trade. You know what I mean? Which one of the could it be that Will Levis goes before Richardson because he's that profile stock big quarterback
I
and
mean,
Richardson they're scared?
it
Malik
wouldn't
Willis.
surprise me if Will Levis goes before CJ Stroud. I mean, Will Levis could be the second quarterback taken. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if any of these guys were the second quarterback taken. Like, after Bryce Young, I mean, I feel like over the last couple of weeks, it's been like a complete crapshoot. Less people are high on CJ Stroud, more people are higher on Will Levis, and then people are high on it. Some people think Anthony Richardson is garbage. Some people think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So
That's you, right?
I don't know if he's the greatest thing
Is
since
he still
sliced
your
bread, but
one? Have you joined
I
me in
don't
the
know if
Bryce
he's
Young
still.
camp?
I don't know if he's still my one. I might have overcompensated for the athleticism, because it's so fun to watch. But I mean, I don't know. It's just like I'd probably still go Bryce Young if I was drafting with the number 2 pick. I'd probably still pick Bryce Young, even though I'm
Yeah.
not a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm growing, man. I like some Bryce Young there. And w- so all four of these guys are going to be first rounders, correct?
Yeah, probably so.
Okay. So that's the quarterbacks. Is there any other quarterback in this draft that you think you'd be interested in nabbing for your dynasty team?
I mean, people have been hyped. I mean, people are still seem to think Hendon Hooker has a chance to go at the end of the first round.
I've
So
heard that.
if Hooker is going at the end of the first round, top of the second, I mean, he's almost a first round fantasy pick, right? I mean, he's pretty much got to be. He's a first round quarterback, or at least a high round second pick. I mean, that's another first round player that ends up pushing more players back into the second round. So yeah, I think Hendon Hooker, but after that, I think it's just none of them are really going to get drafted to probably like the fourth or fifth round, probably.
You know, Hendon Hooker could possibly be 26 years old when he takes his first snap as a
No, it's very possible.
quarterback.
Yeah, it's a
He
good thing quarterbacks have like 10-year careers, though.
Yeah, good thing. Yeah, because I've seen. I mean, I've heard maybe like Detroit jumping into the back of the first round and going with golf for a year because he's looked good enough, and then letting Hendon Hooker grow on top of that and see what he can get out of there. I've got there's a couple guys I'm just keeping an eye on. I lost the name of the athletic kid out of UCLA. I had my list here and it just got all
Or the quarterback,
yeah, the long name.
Dorian Thompson,
Yeah,
Dorian Thompson something.
Thompson Robertson.
Yeah, Dorian Thompson Robinson. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of things. He seems to be a name to keep an eye on, more for sheer athleticism. So if he lands like in Seattle, that would be an interesting little place for him. Jaron Hall, some people are comping him to Brock Purdy, and
I feel how many
but
how long will
everybody
that
is.
how long will that last? That I feel like that'd be the new thing now.
Yeah,
Every time a quarterback, well, he just reminds me so much of a Brock Purdy. I was like,
yeah,
all right, dude, here we go.
but he's not in
Everybody
San Francisco.
we realize everybody reminds you of the last great thing. We understand that.
And my sneaky guy that I'm curious, and depends where he lands, is Stetson Bennett. I'm
Oh, I'm not a
curious
fan
on
at
him.
all. Zero
He is
curious.
he's my like deep stash that no one's gonna like because they all feel like I'm like if I can get him for $1 or two and just see what happens depending upon where he goes. So we're look so after you have running back is in fantasy is king. And the king is Bijan in this draft class. And then we're jumping into the Jamar Gibbs territory. We're jumping into Charbonnet. We're jumping into
Tank
after that
Bixby.
what?
Tank Bixby.
Tank
Tank
Bigsby,
Bixby.
boy. I think you're the highest
Number
person to
one.
know Tank Bigsby. Then you got
Bixby's at like the number 5 running back, 5, 6, 7. He's in that area. I don't know if we've mentioned the kid Tajay Spears out of Tulane. He was a senior. I mean, he was really impressed during the Senior Bowl. A lot of people are high on him as well, so I figure he'd be in like that top 5 running back too.
and I'm seeing the name Rashawn Johnson, who
Vershawn Job, the backup to
back up to
Bijan.
Bijan.
Yeah.
He
He's a
could be
big
Matt
dude.
Castle, right?
He's a big dude.
So that's a possibility. Taji Spears, and then the name that we were talking about a long time ago, or the new trendy name is Israel. I'm not even going to butcher your name, sir.
Abanikanda, yep,
There
yep.
you go, Banakanda. We all want it. We all want him so he can save him. Just like I want we want to get a Banakanda now that I got it, and Butte as a receiver.
Yeah.
And he's got cool names you can say. Are there? We know you're a tank guy. Is there a running back that you think could surprise people? Who's someone
Um,
in the tank that you feel
I gotta bring I gotta bring it forward. The kid out of Ole Miss, Zach. Is it Zach Evans?
Zach, the kid that's
That
been
is.
like three schools? Yeah,
Yeah,
Zach,
I think you.
Zach
Yeah,
Evans.
Zach Evans. Yeah, out of anybody, so he's probably the only one that we really haven't talked about. I think I'm more, interested in maybe him that we haven't talked about. I mean, he's had a pretty solid career once he got to Ole Miss. He has all the tools. I mean, if you watch people on the field, he looks like a legit running backs. But like I said, you just don't know how it translates to the NFL. It's just crazy with these running backs.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by Chase Brown. I
Chase
was listening
Brown
to him
out of
recently.
Illinois, Illinois, right?
Illinois. Dude
Illinois,
is 6'2", 225, and he's from London, Canada.
yeah.
I
London,
love it.
Canada.
That's
All
my
right.
favorite thing. But he's a big dude. I believe he was was he the leading rusher? His yards were nasty. That's all I remember. I remember he had nasty yards for the year, and he's a guy that he's going to go later, so he might be somebody you can nab in the second, third round, depending where he spots. But could be one of those guys that becomes a bulldozer going in for some team that could get scarf you. Is there a running back
Oh,
that
that's
you're
good.
like? I don't think there's. It would take him falling, plummeting down my rookie draft board for me to draft.
Who's that?
Who would you? Is there
Oh,
anybody that
who?
you're like scared of? You're like, I don't think I'm gonna draft him.
Well, I mean, of course we all. I'm more like I'm gonna go Devin A. Chain. I know it's probably
That's my
not a
guy.
popular. I mean, I know it's not a popular pick, but then as I say Devin A. Chain, I'm kind of talking out both ends of my mouth here because last year I was so high on James Cook, and they're literally about the same size. So now I got to go back and kind of reevaluate: Am I really that high on James Cook? If I'm not really that high on Devin A. Chain, because Devin A. Chain is much faster than James Cook. So I'd say 7, 8 chain, but with the speed, he's probably still gets drafted rather high.
Yeah, I think he is drafted. He's that guy that though we're gonna worry about because you're looking. I mean, we're looking for what Darren Sproles to be, and how many Darren Sproles are there? There, not a lot. I mean, Darren Sproles
Not
is
very
much
many.
bigger than I am. There's not a lot of Darren Sproles. He could be one of those guys that's really good for a pro team. PPR, he'll have those weeks, and he's going to be because he reminds me of man, I'm having one of those days. The kid in Chicago. Um,
Herbert,
no, the he's the punt returner.
Hester.
Nope, from last year. He was last year.
Uh,
He was their draft pick last year. Oh man,
Is it starts with a V?
that's
Venus.
Van He's a receiver.
Oh, well, I don't know any more guys then, dude. You're asking me about punt returners. I have no idea.
He's the backup running back. He was the third. Treston Ebner, really quick kid last year. He was similar kind of stuff. So he could end up being like a punt returner for a while or a kick returner or something to that effect. Another guy we talked about that the more I read about him, I like, but he'll probably where he falls to be okay. But Dwayne McBride because he really didn't. Isn't he the guy that had like 2 catches in college?
He had five. He
Five.
had five
Okay.
catches in college. I mean, give him a little bit of credit, but he can run the crap out of the ball. I mean, he's a pounder, man.
So that's another game that another guy that sort of makes me nervous. But if I recall, I'm trying to pull up the stat. I believe Ramondre Stevenson in college, he really didn't have a
He didn't
boat
have a
ton
lot of
of
catches
catch.
either.
He didn't have a boat ton of anything. Let's be honest. As he goes in, I mean, receiving, he had 10 and he had 28 total receptions in his years. I mean, but Ramondre Stevenson had 1,100 total yards in college to be a good running back. So interesting, guys. Okay, receivers. This is supposed to be a down receiving class. Is this receiving class JSN and a bunch of guys?
I mean, I think Jordan Addison's a guy.
I'm
Just
scared.
everybody seems to think Zay Flowers is a guy. Um, but with receivers, I mean, there are going to be like 4 or 5 of them that turned out to actually be a guy that we think, well, that's definitely not a guy. But as far as like first round guys, I think Jackson Smith and Jigba's probably, probably that guy. But wouldn't be surprised me if 1 or 2 more would end up going towards the end of the first.
Does he fall tentatively? I mean, saying he gets drafted. I mean, I'm in my brain. He goes to Houston at
Yeah,
12.
number 12. Yeah,
That's
I'd probably see that.
that's about where most people have him. Somebody might shock us and he'll go somewhere. It'd be cool if like a good team, a good place for him might be like New York to be like the star there. Giants, not the
Right.
Giants.
Well, I
Um,
mean, guys like this, I mean, pretty much anywhere you kind of want him to go. I mean,
yeah.
as long as there's like a competent, let's say, as long as there's like a competent quarterback, doesn't have
Is
to be a great quarterback, just a competent.
is he the next guy after the quarterbacks? So if you're super flex, you're looking at running. You're looking at Bijan, probably the three quarterbacks, not Levis, unless you really reach, and then JSN, or does the
I
Gibbs
think
fall in there, or where's
Gibbs
Gibbs
might
and JSN? Are they?
Gibbs might go before Smith and Jigba, but it just depends on who's drafted and what they need. I mean, if you're loaded at running back, you're obviously not going to take Gibbs. You probably go with JSM. It just depends on where you're at. But yeah, yeah, 5, 6, 7 areas where those two guys are going to go.
So you think they're close enough? Would you? And my strategy generally with rookie drafts is running back, running back, running back, and with it being dynasty, it's you need to draft BP best player available versus what you need, as opposed to in redraft where you got to fill a team. This you can. Was that how you would approach, or like those guys to me are close? I would do
I mean,
that,
I'm a
but I
bigger fan of Njigba. So I mean, if it came down to Gibbs and Njigba, I'd probably take Njigba unless I didn't have any running backs.
yeah.
That would be the only way.
Yeah. So Gibbs, it'll be interesting to see where Gibbs falls, and if Gibbs gets a terrible situation, Charbonnet could possibly jump him, right?
I don't think so. Like I said, running backs, it's hard to put a running back in a bad situation because running backs are constantly put in bad situations and yet they make good out of it. So like I said, I feel like
Unless you're like
and
Charbonnet might get drafted by like the Raiders. That's one I saw him sitting there like, well, that's called setting a year. See Izmir White.
yeah, yeah. I mean if let's see, if Gibbs goes somewhere like that, I mean if Gibbs goes to the Raiders, he's obviously not going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And Charbonnet goes, I don't know, off the top of my head, somewhere that needs a running back. I mean, yeah, there's a chance he could jump in, but I probably not.
Okay, so same question about the receivers. Who is a receiver that might be a guy you've mentioned him, might be a guy you haven't, that's a little farther down that you're intrigued by what you might get out of him? Because this class is different. A lot of it's everybody's trying to get the next Devonta Smith because they're all like my height and your build. So I'm short and you're very very thin. That's what these receivers are. So that's why a lot of people are scared of them.
I mentioned him earlier in the year. It's Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa, Iowa State, Iowa.
I'll
Might be
pull it up.
Iowa State. I think it's Iowa
Iowa State.
State. Yeah,
Iowa
Iowa
State.
State. So he's 6'3", like 220. So he's one of the bigger type receivers. Like I said, got good hands. Not super fast, but you put him on the outside. I mean, he's a big target. You don't need to be super fast in the NFL as long as you can get open. So as far as like later down, I think Xavier Hutchinson is probably one of my favorites.
Hmm. I can't. It's like I always hear the name Jalen Hyatt pop up, but they're like, watch out for him. He's 176 pounds. Like a lot of these guys, I don't. They scare me because they're bean poles. But Devonta
Oh,
Smith's shown that you can survive in this new league. Like I think. I don't have one for that answer, but the biggest flop, the guy that's starting to stick out to me for some reason, just a lot of the stuff I'm seeing and hearing is Josh Downs is a guy that scares me a little bit. As I'm reading on this format guide, he's one of the most underrated receivers in the draft class. He just
yeah. I kind of put Jalen Hyatt and Josh Downs in the same situation. I think Downs is probably a little more productive over a longer period of time. He's more of a contested catch type guy for as being as little as he is. He seems to have be able to go up and get the ball. And Jalen Hyatt, that one good year. Um,
mhm.
Also need to keep out for Cedric Tillman, the teammate of Jalen Hyatt.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
He was supposed to be
Jalen
better, but he's
Hyatt
falling.
wasn't. Jalen Hyatt really wasn't producing as well until Tillman went down. So keep an eye out, eye open for Cedric Tillman, see where he lands.
And it's funny, the name a guy that's popping up as a third receiver is Quentin Johnston. And basically, it's because he's big. I've been hearing a lot of reading and hearing a lot of things that he's good at jumping, he's good at running, but he's not good at catching. Isn't that a problem for receivers?
It could be a problem, but
I'm kind of worried. I'm glad he's not
I
going to be where
mean,
I'm drafting.
as an old Cowboy fan, I could say T.O. wasn't the greatest catcher of all times either. That guy dropped so many open balls or so many open passes, catches. Um, but I can't say it's hard for me to sit here and say that this guy is a possible, third wide receiver taken and he can't catch. If he can't catch, he would not be, if it's that bad, he wouldn't be considered as the number three wide receiver. Just somebody doesn't like him and he's in there. I just feel like they're kind of nitpicking. But we'll see. Like another TCU receiver, we'll see how it works out. So far, they're 1 for 2 so far. So we'll see where it goes.
I'll throw out my name. My name's going to be Butte.
Yeah,
Just
he might
because
not even get drafted. He
he's the
might not
guy.
even get drafted.
Yeah, because it's interesting to see he's what happened to Spencer Rattler. Like he looked like he was gonna be this great player, and then boom, where's Spencer Rattler's going back to college next year, and he's
I
gonna be
think he's
what,
in South. I think he's South
South
Carolina.
Carolina. He's gonna be like 84 till he graduates college because he's been in college for so long because his draft's stall. So last question. The tight end class is supposedly going to be really good. So you're looking at the oh golly, I just lost his name. Michael out of
Michael Mayer.
thank you, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame, probably Kincaid out of Utah, and then Washington. And I'm interested in the kid out of because since we're Virginia boys, the raw kid Kuntz
Vince.
out of ODU or Craft.
There's Laporta out of Iowa is another good one.
And then Musgrave out of. Would
Musgrave out
you
of Oregon.
are you a person? And I've heard some say that people some guy you're either really high on drafting because I'm a tight end guy, and I'm starting to think I love tight ends, but I like to wait. Would you rather get another skill position before drafting a rookie tight end?
Um,
Because they take 3 years usually. I mean, look at Kyle Pitts, number what 3 pick overall in a lot of drafts,
yeah,
two,
yeah, yeah.
and he's
But I like if you need a tight end, and if it's like some tight end premium, if you're looking at like that eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th pick, I'm completely happy with taking a tight end. Honestly, if the Dallas Cowboys take one of these tight ends,
no Ferguson.
no, I don't think Ferguson stands a chance. But if the Cowboys seem to land one of these tight ends, I could see me drafting that tight end as possibly as high as maybe number 7.
Wow, yeah. I think I've been almost convinced to look the other way, but although Mayer's that what Aaron Hernandez type, so he's was the number one receiver on the team. But
Yeah, if somebody like Dalton Kincaid goes to the Cowboys, I would be all in on that. Or even Musgrave. Musgrave would be fine too. I'd be all in.
it's
Either one
funny
of
how
those
we're
guys.
opposites with my love of tight ends. Like Mayer's about it. The other guys, it's got to be where my third round picks falls.
I think Mayer's great, but I think as far as what the Cowboys are going, I feel like a Cowboy, like a
Kind of
type of tight end.
Dalton
I
sounds
think
like a
it's
cowboy name.
I think Kincaid is more of that receiving tight end that they would probably go for. I don't know.
Dalton just sounds like a name they got to have. So, well,
Dalton's
we
from
are a
last
couple.
year, right?
Yeah, Dalton. Yeah, so we are a couple days away. I'm excited. You got any words of wisdom for us as we head off? And just everybody, so you know, next week we're gonna have a post-draft mock draft, the most popular show. We should just do mock drafts all year. People listen to them like no tomorrow. They don't want to hear us talk. We'll have a
Podcast.
special guest to be determined.
Yeah, I just people going off what I said last year. Don't really listen to what anybody says because I bet you from now until Thursday, you'll probably hear the same guy come up with like three different reasons why this guy's going there. But yeah, just enjoy the draft. It's a fun time to sit down, and root for your team, root for the future of your team. So as always, trust yourself and trust the process.